Okay, it's 5:01 here in Zurich. I would propose that we anyway start with our introduction round, and then we will have first a presentation about the Datavault Builder part, then about infoSecur from InfoVia. And we are today 3 hosts on this webinar today. My name is Peter Belles. I have background in data warehousing. Since the year 2000, I'm working in finance and telecommunications. Since 2012, working for Datavault Builder. And I hand over to Mike.
Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are in the world. My name is Mike Kalusik. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for InfoVia. We are a data strategy and execution company, and I have well over 30 years of IT experience leading Fortune 100 organizations. And we'll talk a little bit more about InfoVia near the end of this presentation. Mike?
Yes, another Mike Migalski, founder and principal architect here at InfoVia. Happy to demonstrate the infoSecur tool with you today after Peter builds your data vault using Datavault Builder.
Why ever I'm muted? Good. Somebody muted me instead of himself. That's good. So what is the Datavault Builder? It's about integrating a lot of data. So our clients usually have many different data sources. They need to bring it together. And that's nothing new. Back when I started in the industry, it looked a little bit like this. We had many different tools with many different functions and many interfaces between them. And that's too expensive to do it today like this. For smaller companies, it was never an option. So we have replaced all these different options of data modeling, deployment stuff, creating your database structures, loading your data, orchestrating it into one solution. And the target is that you're faster and better at the same time. So how does it work? We start with a business-driven approach. So it looks like a little bit like this here. Business users and IT users can work together. They work based on business concept, what the data model is. And as we did that in the past and was not so successful, so what changed? Here in the Datavault Builder, in real time from this data model, we implement the real implementation. If somebody goes and changes the physical implementation in the database, the data model is changed. So this means that business users have always an up-to-date view on what the metadata is, what the data is about. And as well as we are much faster like this, they're getting the results much earlier. And that's why they're now happy to join this kind of exercise and participate in creating these data models. So in the background, it looks like this, that from the data model, we create in real-time working code. This means database tables, load statements, but that's not all. To operate your data integration platform, your data warehousing platform, you need as well to have like infrastructure automation. You need to have your deployments automated, your documentation, your data lineage, your operations, and that's all included in the Datavault Builder tool. Just to give you 2 small examples, on the smaller sides, we have eGym company producing this kind of gym machines. They have billion of rows about collected from these machines, and they have a data team of 2 people managing all of this through automation that's possible. On the other hand, we have TV stations like ProSieben Sat.1. They are integrating 2 different data warehouses into one bigger data warehouse, and they are doing distributed development with 40 developers. And this is probably the end of line that we're looking at here. Bigger companies that need to have as well different permissions, that we need to have column level, row level permissions, stuff like that. And that's why we present today with infoSecur today what is possible. If it's relevant to you, we are as well in the certification process to show that we are Datavault 2.0 compliant. If you want to see the comparison, how we compare to other tools that our customer are the happiest, you can download this kind of study or research results from our webpage. We don't have the time to go into details today. So how does it work? We have a model-driven core. So from the business model, we are generating all the technical objects. Then in the second step, we connect to data sources. Then we connect the data sources through the business key to the data model, and we create the abstraction views that we need, the interfaces. Now, usually you could go to the data marts and sort out all the permission stuff at the data mart level, or as we look at it today, in between, you can put the infoSecur tool, which will then limit based on the users that are logged into your database, which kind of data you see, which kind of columns you see, and this will be the second part of the demonstration. So what I have done before this demonstration, I did set up my infrastructure. We will see the model to code conversion. We will not go into regression testing, deployment, automated deployment, and operations, but that's all included, including documentation and lineage. That's happening in real time while I will be modeling. We have code versioning support in Git, and everything is covered by REST APIs. So what makes the Datavault Builder really different, that we are so agile? It is about that the modeling tool is not working against the repository and then you press a button and it creates your implementation. No, it is working in real time directly from the modeling tool to the database. And if you change something in the database, it's in the modeling tool. This is exactly then the level where we create everything, and infoSecur will connect to our access layer to read the data that we prepared, that we integrated between different systems, that we clean, and then they can apply the security layer to it. This means like creating a concept in the Datavault Builder, in the same second, the corresponding hub table in the database is created. Why do people do that? One point is saving time. The other one, probably as well as important, is reducing risk that your project will not fail because you have a very standardized approach to the solution, and you lower your maintenance costs because we update for you the patterns, we deliver your update scripts for your existing physical implementation, and the tool is fully supported. This means that if your physical implementation changes over time, again and again, we will send you new updated patterns with the new versions of the Datavault Builder and as well the update scripts. And let's jump right away into the live demonstration so we can create what is necessary. So we really start here from a blank sheet, and I will create now all the databases for the second part of the demonstration. So the first bit is that we talk to the business user, and he tells us a little bit about his business process, and he tells us that there is something like a sales agent, and this is in the HR subject area. So we are creating here a concept on our canvas, but in the background, in the database, it's already implemented. The columns are created, and it's waiting for the data. So we have one more thing, three more things that we need to add here to our data model. One is the product. And that will be in the products subject area. We will have something called the customer. And usually I will talk longer to the business user and talk about with him about what these objects are about, how they are defined, how they understand it business-wise. Good. And there's one last thing, and this last thing will link all these other elements together, which is the transaction itself. And it will be in the same subject area here as the customer. Does it make sense? I don't know. This is what the business user is telling us. And right now we have a conceptual data model. We have just the concepts on the screen, and now we can go and start adding relations. So we can say that the transaction is linking to the sales agent. There will be many transactions for one agent. We can add here the relation to the product as well here. Hopefully many transactions for one product, and as well the same for the customer. And all of this was already in the background created at the database level. So now we need to connect it to data. So let's go to the staging area. I have here already prepared the connection to one of my source systems, which is a SQL Server database. I already staged one of the tables to just check if my connection is working. But I can go in here and select more tables I want to stage. It will automatically create the ETL flows. It supports CDC sources. It supports as well delta loading. But I will skip all of that. We just do a basic implementation to get our first data in an agile fashion down to our consumers. So let's just stage the other tables as well. And I could have selected here, add another table, load immediately. So it will not only create the target table, not only create the ETL flow, but it will as well load the data already. Good. And that's all that we need to stage our data. The next thing that we can do is go into our data profiling tool. Let's have a look at the data. So we could look maybe at from which countries are our clients. Let's have a look in a tree map view. So we see here most of our clients are coming from Albania, which shows that this is probably some fake data and not real data. Note that Albania wouldn't be a good client base, but it's just a small country. And now in the third step, the first step was create a data model. The second step was stage the data. And in the third step, we will now connect the stage data with the model. And for that, we add here some loads. So we select now our transaction table. We will select the business key. And as this is demo data, happily, we have just one column identifying the transaction uniquely. Usually it could be that we need to compose here a compound key. We could do here some more settings, but for the time being, we just take a plain, simple installation and configuration. So we just put all the columns into so-called satellite. And now what happened in the background? It created a load for the hub. So the business keys will be loaded into the hub. The columns, the attributes will be loaded into a satellite. There's already configured that it will be SCD type 2 insert only historized. It will create tracking objects which are not visible because there are technical artifacts, and they will keep track if any data, if any keys were deleted from the source systems or not, and it creates all the corresponding loads. As well, it went back to the staging layer. It extended the staging table to contain business key and hash key pre-calculations, and it changed the ETL flow to do this kind of pre-calculations in the next load. So this means we have a production-ready implementation into our vault. So directly to our raw vault, we can just start loading the data, and a few seconds later, we will see the results. So this is our business key. We have the hash key, load time, and source. And the background is, as we are very standardized, you never need to configure any of this column names or stuff like that. We do that for you, and you're much faster. It's simple to maintain, but as well, it's standardized. So we loaded our transaction table. So let's load as well our sales agent table. And herein, it's very interesting. We will see it in a second. We will have some information about the agents that can access this kind of data because they are located in specific countries and the transactions are linked to the different countries, so they can then later on access only specific data. I will add here as well the product load. And I will go now really fast that we progress a little bit, but still that fast that everything works. And maybe you noticed that I'm not loading these elements yet, and I'm doing this on purpose so I can show you another feature, because in the background, already a master job was created. So I can go directly to the operations module, and this is the idea of automation with the Datavault Builder, that you don't need to take care of these basic tasks. When you model something new to add it to your master job, it will run in parallel, automatically load all the data that you need. So now we have loaded already all the entities on its own. And we will see here in our sales agent table, we have something like the users, and we have here one special user, which is the InfoVia user, which matches to Cuba, which we will see later, that can be used to limit the information that this user sees to the transactions from Cuba. Good. Now we need to link the transaction to the different elements. This is done by adding here the foreign key loads. If we go into classical speech, so from the transaction table for the sales agent, we need to find the column linking to that. And this is the agent ID. This will not be unique. So the system tells me, yes, in the transaction, I found the same agent several times, but that's perfectly fine. This is exactly what we expect. This matches our many-to-one expectations, so we can't create automatically a satellite. Still, we could normalize out certain stuff if some information would be dependent only on the sales agent key. So let's add the link load here. Not unique as expected, so that's fine. And if I add this last link, this is how long it takes now to create this small data model with 4 entities, relations between them. Yes, the data is very clean, so I didn't spend any time on optimizing my data, stuff like that. But I'm production ready. I can start loading the data and everything will work out. The next step is that we need to do is now create an access to this data, because nobody should ever access your core data warehouse. Doesn't matter if it's their normal form or Datavault model. So what we do as a next step, we go to the dimensional model and we start creating our output. The first thing what I will do, select the grain at which I want to create this output. So I select the transaction and my initial satellite. I select the temporal perspective. Do I want to output the full history or only as of now? And in the background, it will create all the necessary technical objects like pay table, stuff like that, change the master job. I don't need to take care of that. I just need to define what I want. So I first select for the transaction that I want to output data. And let's select just all the columns except of some special technical ones. But additionally, I want to output the relation to the customer. So I go and I drag in the business key of the customer. I go to the sales agent, drag in the business key for the sales agent and for the product. And now the transaction itself has not really a country in it. So what I do is I go to the customer, and from the customer entity, I can select that I want to output here the country, because we know this transaction was for a client in this country, so this will be fine to have a look at. So let's store that. Let's preview how our output will look like. And this is then one part of the data that we will see in the second part of the demonstration. We just need to do the same for the customer. So here as well, we select just all the columns. Let's store that. And what you see here, from the transaction, I was able to go to the customer because there is a many-to-one relation, but I can't go from the customer to the transaction because that would create a fanning trap. So this is the tool is supporting me here of creating the right outputs. So let's do just the same stuff for the last 2 objects that we created here in, and then we will be nearly finished for the first part of the presentation. And what is missing? The product. Good, so I created everything. I will test it properly. I don't have the time to do so. Let's just trust that everything worked out. And the last thing I do, I will now publish this kind of different layers. And right now in the database, they will be available in a layer called access layer. And we have granted the permissions for this access layer to the infoSecur tool. This means they will now access the data that you see here, like the customer on Snowflake, and will start do their magic. So this is the first bit, and this is really now a production-ready implementation from the model staging the data, loading it, creating an interface. Data lineage was in the background already generated. Operations was completed. So we have now a master job that we could schedule here directly in the tool and we can load it. Documentation was created and we could deploy the stuff directly to our next environment or through the Git flow process into our Git repository. So let's switch back to the presentation. And don't worry, I understand that if you've seen it in this speed, probably you couldn't reproduce exactly what I was doing, but the target is that you understand that the tool, if the data is matching your expectation or you need to, or you know which kind of bad problems you have in your data, it's really, really fast to technically implement all this kind of stuff of integrating data, normalizing it, harmonizing it, and that it really covers the different steps. Before we go into the next section, first thing is, I forgot to mention there's a Q&A button if you have any questions. And I would start a short poll where we would ask you if you already using some kind of securing your data, or what is your current state of what you're looking for. That would be probably a good entry point for Mike. You're on mute, Mike.
I was just saying that was lightning fast. That I'm impressed. We're 22 minutes into a demo, and with a fair amount of speaking included, you've been able to build a data vault in 20 minutes or less. Very powerful.
Good. So we got some answers for the poll. Not everybody answered, but that's fine as well. So most people say security is implemented within the database. And the second group is telling us we are using a vendor security solution. Yeah. So this is about it. So now we will see as well how just a general security solution can look like that you can use for many different things.
Okay. Thank you for queuing us up there, Peter. I hope you can all see my screen here. So first of all, I'm impressed with the audience saying, that you're already using the database layer for your security. First of all, I think that is the right architect approach. As an architect, as chief architect at Infovia, and as a data architect for many years, I've always felt like the farther down or left in your architecture you can push your business rules, the better off you are, because you get reuse and consistency out of them. And to our knowledge, or to our, I would submit to you that security rules are in fact business rules. So we're going to show you today how to take what Peter has built from the Data Vault with using Datavault Builder and put security around that at the row and column level. What we have is a snowflake. Add this. There you go. What we have is a snowflake instance here, and as Peter's already showed you, we can look at the raw data for the sales agent. You'll notice that it's in the access layer. So this is, I would submit we would keep the access layer away from the customers, and we would create a new layer called the presentation layer that allows the customers to see the data. Right now, if we refresh the data here, you'll see that we have in the access layer the views that Peter created, product, sales agent, and transaction. And also then in the presentation layer, I've created a secure view called vSecure Sales Agent. So you can see in the raw data here, we've got hundreds of rows from many different countries. The secure sales agent view that we generated in infoSecur, we're going to show you how it works first, and then we're going to show you how we built it. You can see that it is only showing me those agents that are responsible for the country of Cuba. So it's doing some filtering. Let's say that I decide that for the current user in the database, which for the sake of this demo is Infovia, this is the infoSecur user interface. Let's say that the Infovia user can see Cuba employees, but we also want that InfoVia user to see data from, say, Norway. So with a couple clicks there, I added a Norway policy to the current user, and now the same query that returned only Cuba data earlier now returns Cuba and Norway data in just a few seconds. So here we see the agents that are responsible for both Cuba and Norway. So it's just that easy to change the policies. And I would submit that you can take this interface, put it in the hands of your users, the business users, and since access control is a business rule, the business users can now manage it. This policy grants access to the country of Norway, as you can see here. If we wanted to grant access to, say, yet another country, we would just add more countries to either the role or directly to the user. Either way is allowed in infoSecur. You can either assign classes, which are your policies, directly to the user or to roles that the user has. So either way we do that, it's just a few clicks. And now when I run Sales Agent View again, notice I'm selecting star from this. So I haven't changed the query, but now it's returning different data based on the policies. So now we added Switzerland as well as Norway to the list that would return those agents. Let's do one more thing here. Let's get a little fancier, and let's go in and configure this view for Sales Agent so that we mask the agent's name. Let's say that we don't want to always simply display the agent's name. So I'm going to change this to a masking rule of, I don't know, the first n characters of the name. It's going to show here the default expression is the first 5 characters, but we could change that. Let's display the first 4 characters of the last name. And we're going to do that based on a category of masks. So let me show you what that means. What that means is that this view now will mask the agent's first name. I'm going to generate the view, and then I'm going to show you the results of that as soon as it's done generating. So it's that fast. We generated a new secure view. And now when I run the same sales agent, notice the full name here is full at this point. When I run this the next time, it's going to mask that at the first 5 characters, first 4 characters, I mean. So you can see that it was just that easy to change this so that it masks that name. And it actually, we can actually revoke the privilege from the user to see that data at all, since we've put a masking rule on there. So you can see in the US employee here, it shows that I'm masking the agent's name. I'm going to remove that policy from the user or from the role US employee. I'll make sure no other roles for this user have that as well. So the InfoVia user, Cuba employee, it's just a filter, so we're not masking. So now I removed the ability to see masked data in the interface. Remember, I didn't rebuild the view, so we're running the same query against the same view. But now that that user no longer has the ability to see masked data, they see null in the agent full name. So you can see that we have ways to build conditional masking policies so that based on the user's, any given user's policies, they can see the full name, a masked name, or no name at all. So that demonstrates what we call cell-level security. It's being able to generate filters for only certain countries and mask rules for certain columns, such that you can filter and mask down to the cell level if you choose to do so. So now that we've shown you how it works, I'm going to show you how we built it. And to do that, we're going to build a new view. So you notice in Snowflake, in the presentation layer, we only have this secure agent view right now. So I'll refresh that just to prove it. Okay, that's the only view in that layer. Next, I'm going to go into the infoSecur UI, and we're going to create a new view for the product data. The secure store is the data that exists already. So this is our access layer data that Peter built. We are going to select that access layer as our source for our secure data. Remember, this is the unsecured, fully raw vault data. And we're going to choose the product object as our source. And then as our target, we're going to choose the same database, but instead of the access layer, we're going to put this in the presentation layer, and it defaults to a name of vSecure product. We're going to keep that name. So now we've built this new view. When I click on it, you can see that we've gone out and discovered all of the columns in the product source. It has all of these columns, the business key. It's essentially a dimension, so it has the product dimension key, and then the description, group, ID, name, and number. Okay? So it's displaying all of those columns. So just to show the incremental building of that, I'm going to show you the raw data for product here. We've got a few dozen rows. We've got some product names. And then what's really important here is we've got a product grouping, which has things like tools and games and garden and home for groupings. If I run my secure product view right now, I'm going to get the exact same data that I got from the access layer. So why is that interesting? Well, it's interesting because we created a default product view that displays all the rows for all the columns. Next, we're going to add a rule to filter that data based on an infoSecure policy that we've named called product group. And we're going to compare the product group policy to the product group column in the secure store. So from the access layer, the product group column is going to be compared to the product group category. So with a couple clicks there, we added this filter into the view. We're going to regenerate the view. And as soon as that's done generating, should just be a second here. There we go. Now, when we run product, the secure product, we get a subset of the values. So with just a few clicks, we're able to build this view, and it's only showing the home and tools product groups. So only 4 rows out of that raw data from the product. The presentation layer is only showing us these 4. Well, why is it only showing us these 4? Let me show you. Because the current user logged in is InfoVia, and his roles include this one, a hardware employee, and the hardware employee can see only these hardware products, home and tools. So with just a few clicks, we can change what data the user sees by creating a view and then associating it with only a handful of the products. Now, how easy would it be for us to add, let's say, food to this list? All we have to do is edit the role, change the product group to also include food. We can use different match types. We're not going to go into this, but you can do other matches besides an equal match. You can do a like, so you can do F%, for example. In fact, let's just do that. Why not? F%. And so now we can see home, tools, and all groups that start with the group name of F. So running the product secure view now, the same query. Here we see products from the home, the tools, and the food category by just simply adding a specification to the policy. So it was that easy to create a new view from scratch that filters based on product group data. And so now you've seen the sales agent and the filtering capability. You've seen the product data and how we filtered and masked. Sorry, we masked the sales agent. We filtered the product data. Let's put that all together into a query right here. This is a query that joins the transaction data, which is a large set of data. I'm just running this query against the transaction. This has hundreds of rows of transactions for all different countries, and all different product types. Okay, let's join that to our secure sales agent and our secure product that we just showed you as kind of a way to predicate this whole demo to show that we can now use these secure dimensions that we created to also filter our fact data. And so with a simple join between the secure agent and the secure product, I'm now only seeing the product data for those countries, Norway, Cuba, Switzerland, and I guess it's just those three. And then also notice that I'm only seeing the transactions for product groups that include home, food, and what was the other one? Tools. I think there's some in here that are tools. There we go. So you can see that with a simple join, we get a lot of reuse, and there's a lot of power in these virtual, secure presentation layer views. And simply by joining to the transaction on that, you get a filtered and masked set of transaction data that includes only the tool data and only the product group data for those three product groups. And if we also scroll here to the sales agent, there's a sales agent in this transaction, country. There's the sales agent right there. Notice that we don't see any sales agent name. There, his full name is obscured. Let's go back and add that in to the role of U.S. employee. Let's add that rule back that says the U.S. employee can see masked agent name. Okay. So now, when I rerun this query, instead of a null in the agent name, this particular employee or this particular user will see the masked agent name instead. And with that, I'll demonstrate this as soon as the query returns and then turn it back to Mike Kalusik. So there you go. There's your masked full name with just a little bit of configuration of the policies. So we've shown how to take a set of access layer data built by Peter and using Datavault Builder. And in 20 minutes, he was able to build product, sales agent, and transaction views in the access layer. In now less than 20 minutes after that, we're able to add a secure product and a secure agent dimension and also secure transaction with a simple join and show that you can do row level filtering, conditional column masking, and reuse that logic in joining to your transactions. All of that within 40 minutes, from zero to secured data vault, ready to be consumed by any end user in 40 minutes. So that concludes the demo of infoSecur. I'll turn it back to Mike Kalusik now.
Great, thanks, Mike. No, truly exciting to see all that we're able to do with both a combination of Datavault Builder to quickly build out a data warehouse solution, and then on top of that, to be able to secure that data very quickly. You know, one of the things that Mike didn't call out is the fact that there are so many pain points today in the industry with sprawling data and with report sprawl, and so many organizations have a wealth of information in their data warehouse, but they're just terrified to share it because they don't know who's going to see that data and what they're going to do with it. With a product like infoSecur, you're able to go in and have these fine-grained policies around roles so that you can share your data broadly, and then your organization can turn that data into true business opportunities that are going to generate additional revenue, where in the past you've been afraid to take those risks, and it's caused you to miss out on those opportunities. So Mike, if you could stop sharing, I'll start sharing my screen.
Go ahead.
And so I just want to talk briefly about InfoVia as an organization. Apart from the, excuse me, apart from the InfoSecure product that we have. We are also a services organization that are experts in providing data strategies to large organizations as well as small organizations and startups and so forth. And so I'm just going to take a few minutes to walk through a little bit about what makes InfoVia unique. So our general strategy is really to empower organizations to put together a comprehensive data strategy to understand what that looks like. It's not just, hey, I need to build a data warehouse, but it's, I need to build a solution that's going to create opportunity and then provide a return on investment back to our organization. So that includes, you know, an overall strategy. It includes a data warehouse. It includes the governance around that data warehouse, presenting data catalogs to your people or access control and so forth. It's managed services so that you have someone that's there ensuring that the data is loading throughout the night so that all those reports are fresh and up to date when all of your executives come in first thing in the morning. And then it's also, you know, additional things that we do like training employees on Datavault best practices, how to utilize automation tools like Datavault Builder, and providing BI design and development capabilities and things like that as well. So, whoops. So, as was mentioned earlier, InfoVia was founded back in 2018, and over the last several years, we've seen a tremendous amount of growth. Mike is the founder and principal architect. I'm the chief operating officer. And so between the two of us, we have done just an amazing job of delivering value for our clients. And we've seen that pay back in dividends in their oftentimes volunteering to be referrals for us. And they're oftentimes coming back to us and saying, hey, we want you to do more product projects for us simply because we're so pleased with what's been done. And that's really a testament to the team that we've hired. We really focus on hiring the best and brightest people in our industry. And we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a couple of slides. This is an example of some of the organizations that we have worked with or are currently working with. And what you can see from this is there's really a broad spectrum of different industries here. We're not hyper focused on one particular industry. The exciting thing is that a data strategy is really something that every industry is in need of. And when you need a data strategy, you need to make sure that you find someone that can help you put together a solid strategy that you're not going to have regrets from and that you're not going to waste money on. And so that's one of the things that we focus on as an organization. Some of the things that set us apart is across our team. I recently did a poll with our team, and we have really almost 40 different industries that we have experience in across our team, which is really phenomenal and kind of unheard of in this kind of space. We heavily focus on Datavault. We believe in the fact that Datavault is really the newest, best way to implement a data warehouse strategy. And we oftentimes will help our clients migrate from old Kimball data warehouses and so forth. We also emphasize the value of creating a data ops pipeline and implementing data access strategies early on in your development lifecycle. We have strong partnerships around the world. Datavault Builder is a great example of that. We've been partnering with them and helping to grow their product base and client base around the world as well. And so we also work with all of the common data platforms out there. So whether it is Snowflake, Databricks, Azure, AWS, and so forth, we also help migrate a lot of clients off of some of the older platforms like Teradata and so forth. As I mentioned earlier, we spend a lot of time with our clients. We work in a variety of models where we will come into some organizations that have only a light IT team, and we will partner with them and help build their data warehouse. And then others have a little bit more of a staff will oftentimes work shoulder to shoulder with them in kind of a peer programming model where we help them to build their data warehouse. And at the same time, we're training them in all of the best practices that our teams bring in. So as I often tell them that we fade out as they fade in. And by the time the engagement has come to an end, they are able to take care of the ongoing care and feeding of that data warehouse that they've built with our assistance. We also provide, as I mentioned, managed services so that we can ensure that the data continues to load after hours and that dependence on the data is always reliable and trustworthy. As I mentioned before, we have some fantastic people on our bench, and the proof is really in the pudding. And what I mean by that is, as you can see in this bottom right box, we've never had a failed project. Every one of our clients has been elated and satisfied, and they've often come back and offered to be referrals for us and to ask for additional work. And so we're excited. We've seen a tremendous amount of growth as a result of that, and we have continued to gain credibility in the industry and around the world. And so we're excited to continue to partner with organizations. We have a lot of exciting large organizations in the pipeline right now that we're looking forward to getting started with as well. And let me talk a little bit about, when we come to engage with a new client, oftentimes we hear the same things. We go to conferences all the time. We talk to people that are really looking for a new data strategy. And a lot of times they're really sharing the same pain points. They've got data silos across their organization. The data's fragmented. They have multiple sources of truth. They need to bring in some form of data governance, either for a compliance and regulatory reason, or simply because they want to be able to build out data catalogs and share that with their organization so that they can get greater use out of their data. Data quality is just a persistent problem across most organizations. And the solutions they have in place currently, they don't scale, they don't perform. There's a lot of loss of credibility for the IT department as a result of all these problems that are plaguing them. And then on top of that, their stakeholders are clamoring for more analytic capability and dashboards and the ability to look into their data and understand where they need to focus their attention. And so a lot of what we'll do is we'll come in, we'll help them put together a strategy around that. We'll help them choose a target platform and some good automation tools to start delivering some real value very quickly. And that oftentimes really just helps them to have a sigh of relief. As I mentioned, when we talk to people at conferences, so often there's just a lot of head nodding because they see it, they get it, and they see that we resonate with where they're struggling, and we start putting those solutions together very quickly for them. And then they're starting to gain credibility back in their IT departments and across their organizations as well, as we start to execute. So what makes InfoVia a little different from all the other consulting shops that are out there? Well, one thing is we look at a data strategy very holistically. When we go into an organization, a lot of times they'll say, hey, I need a data warehouse. And we say, okay, well, let's agree on that, but let's also talk about what else goes with the data warehouse. You're going to need some data governance. You need to bake in some access control, obviously, because you want to be careful about who's going to see that data. You need to have a BI layer so that you can deliver some, actionable analytics out of that data warehouse. And you probably need some data science as well, whether it's AI, machine learning, large language models, whatever it is that you're trying to do. Ultimately, what you want to do is you want to mine your data for those nuggets that are not always so easily achieved, but still hold tremendous value as well. And a lot of the way that we do that is we future-proof the solutions that we bring to the table. Yes, there are things that have been done for the last 20, 30 years, and they've been done very well. But as things evolve, new and better ways come along. And so we have better tools today. We have better methodologies. And that's one of the things that we focus on. We want to make sure that as our clients are looking to invest heavily in their data strategy, we want to make sure that 5 years down the road, they're not finding themselves having to reinvest because they chose something that was old and tired. Rather, they've got something fresh and new, and it has a lot of runway in front of it. Another way we do that is we look at the big picture. We're looking at these organizations and saying, how can I formulate a strategy today based on everything that's going on across your organization and across your industry, and really where you're headed as an organization, 5 to 10 years down the road. Because ultimately, we want to build a solution that's going to continue to naturally evolve, and it's not going to look like this patchwork quilt over time because we didn't have the foresight to anticipate where the organization was going. The other big piece is we really emphasize early ROI. We know that when an IT leader goes and asks for budget, a lot of times it's a significant spend. They're really putting a lot of their political clout out there with their leadership, trying to justify that they've made a solid decision. And we want to help them get some quick wins out of that and start delivering value back to the organization quickly. So we empower our stakeholders and these organizations that we work with so that they can get those quick wins and so that they can continue to build credibility across organizations so they can continue to reach out to other departments in the organization to repeat the successes that they've had early on. And a lot of that really, as we wrap around the left side of this diagram here, what we really see is it comes down to the team that we brought to the table. We're heavily focused on hiring the best and brightest. A lot of the people that we have on our bench are true thought leaders. They speak at conferences. They have international recognition. They really know what they're doing. And that's really important when selecting an implementation partner, because you could either hire somebody that has a small army of low-cost engineers that can just crank out code, or you can bring someone to the table that's really going to help you get it right the first time. They're going to help you think about the stuff that you should be thinking about, but you just don't know what you don't know. That's where our team comes in, is they're the ones that are going to help you get it right away. They're going to say, hey, here's what you need to be thinking about, and let's put a strategy and a roadmap and a project plan in place that's going to really help you to be successful. And you're not going to have to go backwards. You're not going to have to re-architect. You're not going to have to second guess yourself because you have the expertise. We've built over 36 large enterprise data warehouses around the world. And so this is definitely not our first rodeo. We've done this several times. We've learned the mistakes that most organizations make, and we help future organizations avoid those same mistakes. So just a couple of examples of some great success stories we had. We had a large real estate investment company came in. We trained their staff who had never seen Datavault before. We trained them on how to build a data vault, how to use automation tools. And in less than a year, they had delivered over $250,000 in a return on their investment. Similarly, we have an oil and gas organization that we are currently working with. They haul millions of gallons of fuel around the country, and they have IoT devices on their trucks, and we help them bring that data in real time so that we can then provide analytics around how their drivers are doing, how much product they're moving, and all of the Department of Transportation compliance and so forth that goes along with that. So definitely a very complex implementation there. A global equipment rental company. We're currently working with them to move all of their data. They have 15, 20 years of data in Teradata. We're moving it all to Snowflake, and we have to do it with zero downtime. And that's been a fantastic project. It's just about done. And we're seeing that there's a tremendous amount of appreciation for all that InfoVia has brought to the table, because as they've learned, when you have that much history with your data warehouse, you have a lot of variableness. And we've seen that come through, and we've helped them navigate all the different ways that people have implemented code and structure and metadata and so forth in their data warehouse over the last 15 to 20 years. And we're helping them to get to that new, better target platform without missing a beat. And then lastly here, working with a state higher education organization. We are helping build out a data warehouse for all of the universities and colleges within that state. They have a lot of regulatory and reporting requirements that require aggregation of all of that data. It's across multiple source systems and a lot of variableness across those, because they have a combination of junior colleges, universities, and so forth. And we have to bring all that data together in order to help them with that reporting requirements. So it's exciting to see how that's coming along for them. And again, these are just people that have just been super excited to see the success and help them themselves to build more credibility and to deliver value back to their organizations. So with that, encourage you to visit our website, learn more about what we've discussed here today, learn more about infoSecur as a data access solution. And with that, I'm going to open it back up to all of our panelists here and open it up to any questions that anybody might have. So, and Peter, I believe that you're monitoring the questions.
Exactly. So one question is that if you support all the different variants like row level security, column level security, and cell level security in infoSecur.
I'll take that one. Yes, we do. Even maybe more important than that, we support them in all major relational database management systems. So if you create policies to deploy on your, say, Snowflake data warehouse, but you also want to deploy them on your legacy Oracle data warehouse and your source system SQL servers, we can do that with the same set of policies.
That's really cool. So one question is, how did this work together today? We used a Snowflake database instance, and the Datavault Builder is using certain schemas where we process the data and prepare it, and infoSecur was accessing on the same instance, in the same Snowflake account, in that case, the data. If we would have been in the same region with our two accounts, we could have implemented something as well like data sharing. But as we are not having our accounts in the same region, we have chosen just to work in one of them. So we don't need to do any data replication because, yes, setting up everything in 40 minutes, implementing a data vault and the secure layer would be probably too much then. But yes, for sure, that would work as well.
I would add to that, Peter, that it's infoSecure is as simple as gaining connection to the source to the source data. So you granted that access layer to our login. We logged into Snowflake and set up infoSecure directly on that, creating views in the presentation layer. So for us to be able to do this, all we needed was a login to your environment, and we took it from there.
And I can confirm that we just did that on Monday. So this is not like we prepared this demonstration for weeks or months, but it's really, we just discussed what it should do, what the data is about, and it just worked out of the box. And I think this is for both the tools a really crucial part, that you can really get something, and within 1 week you could do a POC and probably show how you get the data from the source, how you process it, how you integrate it, how you secure it, and create your first report based on the secure data. And I think that's a very strong point to sell to the management.
It's the end-to-end easy button. You have the easy button for building your Datavault Builder, the easy button for building security on that infoSecure.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah. Well, along those lines, Peter, I have a question for you, because I think a lot of times people wonder, with automation tools like Datavault Builder, how much time does it really save using a tool like that versus doing it the old-fashioned way of just getting a data engineer in there and a data architect and just having them just brute force write all the code out?
So, I mean, we could look at specific part like creating a hub, and there it's nearly all the time. But we have, like, from Yale University, they did a webinar on using the Datavault Builder, and they compared it to a similar project using Talent and creating manual stuff. And they realized they saved 75% of the project efforts by the Datavault approach. Yes, so still you need to do it like analyzing your data. You need to set up your infrastructure still. You need to get your permissions. You need to get your business users on board. But for all the technical parts of the deployment part of operationalizing the stuff, you save a lot of time. And as you say, the return on investment is very, very high.
Your data engineers and architects are at least 4 times more productive with automation tools.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'll even say, I was at a conference here last year, and I was talking to an IT leader, and he had said that one of the big consulting firms had told him it was going to take 5 years to build his data warehouse. And I couldn't believe that anybody could take that long to build a data warehouse. But the reality is, with an automation tool like Datavault Builder, if you cut that into a fourth, you're talking at maybe a year. But even that, I mean, the reality is, all the data warehouses that we build typically, they're a few months long. They're not years long.
Well, we just showed it in 40 minutes.
Exactly.
And it is true. My first project took 2 years and 3 years until it was live. And then the business requirements changed in that time. So it's completely worthless doing projects like that if you don't work agile today. And if you want to see more, maybe as a last point, as call to action, on YouTube, you find a video about how we create really a data warehouse with 2 different data sources, with hierarchies and everything. And yes, it takes a little bit longer, like nearly 2 to 3 hours. But after the 3 hours, you see really reports being there. Everything is running, everything is scheduled, and everything is in place. Yes, still, it was with data that we were well aware of what the problems are. But still, for the technical doing, and this is with your tool as well the same, people will have longer defining what they want to do than to do it. So,
well, that's where people are most valuable. Creating SQL and DDL is not the best use of your data engineer's time. It's designing and having those conversations with your business to decide what your hubs should be. What is the unit of work for your links? How should you split your satellites? What data should be grouped together? What is the security of that data? Those are the valuable conversations. Making it happen should be automatic.
Yep. That's a good last word, I think. If this is fine for you, I would close the webinar here today. We reached 6 o'clock Zurich time. So thank you a lot. Thank you for everybody that attended, and have a nice evening and have a nice morning, wherever you are. Thank you a lot.
Yes.
Thank you, Peter.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for joining. Bye-bye.